Big old bell, big old bell, big old bell, big old bell. That big old bell, big old bell, big old bell. All I really want, that big old bell, big old bell, big old bell. All I really need, that big old bell, big old bell, big old bell. All I really want, that big old bell, big old bell, big old bell, big old bell. Every old Manolo. Big old bell, big old bell, big old bell, big old bell. All I really want, that big old bell, big old bell, big old bell, big old bell. All I really need, that big old bell, big old bell, big old bell. All I really want, that big old bell, big old bell, big old bell, big old bell. Every old Manolo.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live this week with our weekly podcast here at the Big Gold Belt. Things may look a little different. We're just trying some new looks, new graphics, new feel, make things a little bit more interactive for everybody. So bear with us as we get this all legit. But I'm the host, 2 Chains, and I got the whole team with me tonight, including the return of Jamal off of his tour of the world. We'll have to ask about a little bit about how that was. But Hot Take Hill Will is here, along with my man Silly Sellers. How y'all fellas doing?
Doing good.
Man, pretty good.
What's going on? What's going on? Another exciting week, as it always is around here.
Right on. First off, yeah, like I said, Jamal, how was the trips, man? You've been all around the world. Any suggestions, feedback for the fans?
Yeah, I mean, suggestions. Norwegian Airlines isn't terrible. Their food is, but the flight was pretty good, nonstop from Newark to Rome, in about 8 hours. Like it was smooth. Like it couldn't have been better. And I've flown to Los Angeles a couple times. Been to Rome before, but yeah, that was a really quick 8 hours, and it doesn't seem that it would be. Coming back about the same, it's just a really damn good flight. And honestly, the flight was $450 round trip, so definitely.
Wow.
Exactly. So that's, that'll get you there. Went to Malta. That was the point of going to Rome, and the people are great, crazy, like really old prehistory stuff there. Went to this place that's like a 6,000-year-old cemetery, burial chamber. So that was nuts. And went to a couple other places that were about 4,000 to 5,000 years old. Gelato was insane. It was just a really good time. And then flying back to Newark was smooth because, no jet lag, no nothing. Actually got back to Newark, went to the hotel and went to bed. And then the next day was Community Day.
Right.
So
Pokemon Community Day. Pokemon Go
right.
Community Day. Yeah.
But the people that know, and the people that don't. But
that's been my statement like all week.
Right. So that was Community Day, and that was a good time. So yeah, being able to do that, after a flight from Europe with the time change and all that stuff, it was real smooth. So a good time was had by all. And now my next big trip is going to be to Toronto for SummerSlam, if I don't make it to San Jose for NXT TakeOver.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Yeah, let's definitely a lot to talk about with that as well too. Obviously the biggest story coming out of this week is the Superstar Shakeup. But yeah, we got a ton to talk about. And I don't have any notes, so hopefully we're not all over the place. But first off, Will, can you bring up what you said you just heard right before we went live tonight?
our breaking news, so to speak, or breaking rumors, I guess we should say.
Yeah.
Since this is
it's worth
this is absolute speculation and stuff, but this went up in the last hour and is currently up on 411mania.com. There is an article that just went up talking about details on AEW likely having to pay for their TV time in potential Turner deal. So
why is that news?
The scuttlebutt is going around that we might have a time buy situation on our hands where, yes, they will be on Turner, but AEW will not be getting any money and will, in fact, actually be putting out money for whatever time they're getting on there. Stuff may have changed in the last couple weeks, apparently. But as I said, this is developing as we speak. I would imagine since this news is out there now, we're probably going to hear a lot about this in the next 24 hours because now damn well people are asking questions now.
Yeah.
So
right.
if there's any truth to this, I think we're going to know very quickly.
I don't know. When it comes to AEW right now, like, I'm just not on the wagon. I don't know. First of all, the one thing I want to be very adamant about with the TV deal is that, like, it doesn't make or break anything for me because I emphasized on this so much, like, and I think me and Jamal had like a legit hour talk about this. Like, Impact's doing some really good things right now, considering the wars for who's going to be number 2. With ROH, I'm not going to take Jamal's point, but he pretty much said, what are they doing and what have they done to solidify their stance as being the number 2 as they should? But Impact's been doing some really good things. I mean, they're on Twitch, which is free, the app is everywhere. Your phone, your PlayStation, whatever, your Android TV, it's everywhere. And they are legit signing good talent. And people still aren't watching it. So I just don't know what is an AEW deal going to do to say they got a deal. It's not going to make people tune in for. It's not going to make people be more invested, as if, like, you can lay Impact roster next to AEW roster and there can be some arguments made. For sure the Impact Knockouts division is absolutely stronger. So I just don't think that the TV deal is going to solidify them as a threatening potential company. Yes, it's going to help with their storyline or something, but I don't think it's going to create more viewers. Like, it's not going to make people to be more invested in them as a brand. So as far as with the news with that, I mean, I guess that's for the people that's ride or die with them. Like, hey, if they get a deal, then I'm sold on them, sure. But, like, other than that, it doesn't matter to me. I've been said that their idea, because considering how they create content with being elite and all the other offsprings to them, why don't they invest in doing something like why don't they invest in doing something like Lucha Underground and so forth? So,
well, yeah, I think the big thing is
we're live
obviously
too. We're live.
We are live and
we're live. Even though it doesn't say it, we're live.
Okay, all good.
Yeah.
First time with the new fancy setup here.
Yeah.
But I think the big question it comes down to is if they need to have money coming in other than just these darn ticket sales that they have for these events and these T-shirts that they're selling.
Yeah.
And if we don't know anything about what a TV deal for them is going to look like. We don't know if they're trying to do live TV every week, if they're trying to do like a taping schedule, like an Impact or a Ring of Honor, where they tape a whole bunch, of episodes at once and then air them across a month like an NXT does. I mean, there's a lot of different ways they can go about doing TV. The question becomes, how are they going to pay for it? And then also, if they aren't bringing in any money to pay for it, how long is Khan family willing to keep that gravy train rolling to finance this thing without money coming in to cover all these costs?
Yeah.
I think that's a good question. But what you got to think is the Khan family does have a lot of money that they're trying to invest in this. But I think it's a win-win situation for them in a way. Because they're getting all that Jacksonville Jaguars money and their own personal business money. This is like another side investment. Like if somebody owns a home that they want to try to buy another home to see if they can rent it out. And I think this is what the Khan family is trying to do. So I don't think it's a bad risk situation for them. However, they understand that they need to do all they can to make it successful because they don't want to lose or waste money on it. But that is a good question, Will, that you bring up, how they want to, receive some financing about it, or what type of commercials or advertisements will help with promotions, which will help aid that money process.
Yeah. Get in there, perfect sale.
Okay, so the thing is, I don't really understand why this is news, because people buy time on television for a number of reasons. Largely, those reasons aren't disclosed and contracts aren't disclosed, but here we are. As far as AEW goes, do you really think that Turner, which has a deal with the baseball for the playoffs, and I think on Sundays, which has a deal for NBA during their season, and marquee games that ESPN don't get, they had a deal with the AAF that unfortunately folded recently. So Turner Sports
really
is the
too.
thing. I'm low key pissed about that because it was actually not terrible.
I think they filed bankrupt too, as of today, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
well,
they're done.
They were hemorrhaging money. That was a different problem. But still, I like sidebar. San Antonio deserves an NFL team, but
Agreed.
There's no way in the blue hell that you think that Turner is going to just is going to pay AEW. There's nothing for them to gain in that situation because AEW doesn't exist. It exists only in paper and only in fantasy. But what matches under the AEW banner has to happen? Chicago doesn't count.
Right.
That wasn't an AEW show.
Right.
So we've had a couple of pep rallies and a bunch of YouTube clips. That's not a company.
Yeah. Exactly.
So until we have our first show, which will be in a month,
Yep.
then we can say that you have a legacy to build on. But there's no way in the hell that anybody's going to walk into a boardroom in Atlanta and sit down with the head of Turner Sports or Turner TV and say, "Watch me in the Elite and give us some money."
Right. Right. And that's kind of what the further digging I did in the last hour, that's kind of what I'm hearing might be the issue, that they were talking to Turner and everything was cool and they were showing all the footage they have and, shopping it around. And as Turner and them started asking more questions, they quickly figured out, hey, wait a second. This big crowd you all drew in Chicago and this big show you did in Chicago, you didn't produce that. ROH produced that, and you don't have them with you now. So you haven't actually produced an event. You haven't actually produced a pay-per-view, and that might be exactly the turning point that's maybe changed things now as people have become more familiar with what exactly they're being offered to buy into here. Yeah. But I don't know. I think we're going to know more in the next 24 hours.
So let me ask this then, and just based on how you say that, now, like Jamal said, and like everybody's been saying, like everything's on paper right now. Nothing has been produced. So what is the percentage that this may fail before it actually gets started? If we think about, is this a 50-50 shot right now?
No, absolutely not. I think that the fact that it doesn't get off the ground and explodes before it gets, I think that's like, it's a safe bet that AEW will get off the ground. Yeah. Will we remember it or give a damn in July? That's the big question. It isn't their first show because their first show is going to be hype regardless.
Right.
But their second, their third, their fourth, and into their TV deal, that's going to be the test. That's going to be the benchmark. And, getting 15,000 people in a minor league arena in the suburbs of Chicago, well, cool, but that just shows you what the state of independent wrestling is versus corporate wrestling.
Right.
If Ring of Honor actually tried, they could sell out, a bigger buildings. And honestly, until other groups did, Ring of Honor would still be selling out in like the Showplace Arena, or a place like that. But they had to step their game up because of NXT and because of Impact, and now they're playing in junior college stadiums and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So let's not forget that we were like a year removed from Ring of Honor doing a show in a single A minor league baseball stadium in Brooklyn. So that's where they were a year or so ago in August. So that's not like, and Ring of Honor is a corporately controlled company by one of the biggest television giants in the country. People sleep on how big Sinclair is. They're everywhere. So with that said, AEW will get off the ground, barring some major, bungling of funds.
Mm-hmm.
But can they sustain it? That's what we don't know yet, and that's what the corporations don't know yet, and that's something that they'll have to go through and prove.
Yeah,
I think what they'll do is they will fund their first 2 or 3 events themselves, and that will create enough equity so that television partners will listen to them. They can't go to Sinclair because Ring of Honor. They're not going to go to NBC because WWE or Fox because WWE.
Right.
So they kind of got to go to either Disney, no. CBS, Viacom, probably not, or Turner, who already has an interest in wrestling and a sports background, low key.
What about this? I'm gonna throw something else at you. What about Showtime, HBO? If you want to tweeter the lines of that sports entertainment, could they go that route in a way?
Hell no.
It's funny you mentioned Showtime. Apparently, that's the rumor for the other network that was interested outside of Turner. And obviously, the deal breaker there is premium cable.
Right.
They want to be somewhere where everybody can see them.
Right.
But Showtime is who I'm hearing is the other party of interest.
And when you think about it, like these premium cable channels are going these streaming routes where if you cut the cords or whatever, and you just buy Showtime or Stars for $10 or $15 a month, it falls in that same avenue. And it also can be shown as a replay value for like their on-demand services. So it can work, even though it is costly effective. But I'm just wondering how that could work for this situation.
It's about network coverage. That's what it is. Because even though WWE is seen in, like 2.3 million people watch their show, which is a horrendous number, but that's what that is right now. And they're still seen in like 90% of all households in America.
Right.
Because of their being on basic cable. That number is going to go up to damn near 100% when they go to Fox. Because even if you don't have cable, be damned if you don't have Fox. And if you don't have Fox, then you probably don't have TV.
Right.
So because of that, it wouldn't be in their best interest of AEW to kind of handcuff themselves behind a paywall, that paywall being Showtime, in an era where people are cutting the cord at an alarming rate. Now, don't tell me that Showtime Go is a thing, but if you're willing to say, but so is everything else.
Right.
As much as I love the WWE Network, but then there's Powerbomb, and there's Fight TV, and then there's, something else, and there's something else, and there's something else. And Showtime? Well, I don't know. Now you're stretching yourself a but that number is very small in the grand scheme of things.
That's a drop in the bucket. You cannot run a wrestling company off wrestling Twitter. That is for sure.
Well, we just seen one fail because of wrestling Twitter.
That knife cuts both ways.
Certainly does. Certainly does. Wrestling
you
Twitter
go.
giveth, and wrestling Twitter take it away.
Truth right there. That
Long live the gated community.
The literal 1%.
Well, ironically enough, Sunday becomes it's Easter, and there seems to be a resurrection going on in the areas very soon. Guess we'll talk about that later on. But yeah, wrestling Twitter, that's a good one. So the Superstar Shakeup happened this week, which for anybody, it happened, and for anybody who just just been under a rock or have no clue what it is. It's just WWE's way of moving people around to from the Raw SmackDown brand. Maybe somebody's coming up from the option of coming up from 205 Live or NXT. So we've seen a lot of that. So anyway, just the results from the shakeup.
Let me ask you this before you start. This is just a quick question to everyone. Do you think the Superstar Shakeup should have been the night after WrestleMania?
I mean, it basically was. It also was so misleading too, considering
that darn the week after May, the 2 shows after Mania were very much just treading water and just nothing happening with them. But then again, I kind of figure like they're so darn exhausted from everything that's been going on that weekend that they probably did need that week to kind of just reset and like be like, oh damn, what we trying to do now?
Yeah, maybe I don't know. I think maybe because of the week after, some contracts were set to expire. So it's either was something about like giving people that contract was going to expire, or people that were going to soon release, give them a last showing or whatever, Or ultimately, it could have been one of those type of like, well, we know we're going to get ratings for the Raw and SmackDown after Mania. So in
That's
order
what
to
it is.
extend the ratings, let's make an event the next week that makes it exciting, you know?
You nailed it. You just nailed it. That's
So,
the deal.
Yeah. But it's just to go over some of the results real quick from it. So for SmackDown, you had the superstars that moved to SmackDown was Roman Reigns, Finn Balor, the IC champion Finn Balor, Elias Bailey, Ember Moon, Kairi Sane, Laura Sullivan, Buddy Murphy, Liv Morgan, Chad Gable, Apollo Crews, Mickey James, Otis, and Tucker. So, I'll come back to that. Oh, this one's gonna get good because I forgot that quick. Matter of fact, I'm about to just derail this whole conversation in a second. But moving to Raw, we have AJ Styles, The Miz, Ricochet, Aleister Black. Do I have to say their name?
No, please
Yes.
don't. I was about to say,
Yes,
please
you
don't.
do.
No,
God damn it, you own it. You say it with pride.
no.
Nah, never mind. Somebody just issued me a draw too. So I'm just gonna just go over there. But you may not have heard of these guys, but Eric and Ivar.
I've heard of them. Yeah, it's a good team. It's a good team.
Yeah. I've recently drafted from Busch Gardens, America. Andrade, Zelina Vega, Rey Mysterio, Jimmy and Jey Uso, Naomi, EC3, Lacey Evans, Eric Young, and Cedric Alexander. So, you know, I like some of the moves. I get some of the scheming, at least for the future for some of this stuff. But I was left with some questions for sure. I guess notably here, what we can see is that Bailey and Sasha seem to be broken up. Kairi Sane got called up. Law Sullivan is going to work both shows apparently because the night before they say he was on Raw, but now he's on SmackDown.
Apparently he's on SmackDown, it looks like.
Yeah.
Buddy Murphy called up. Liv Morgan broken from the Riot Squad. May you guys say a prayer for her because I have no clue where that goes. Chad Gable, maybe this is about to be his singles run finally.
No.
Apollo Crews didn't realize he was still employed. And then for Raw, AJ Styles was the big name moved over. The Miz, which I predicted had to go to Raw. The Miz had to be on USA Network in order for him to promote his Miz and Mrs. show. So that was the absolute no-brainer for me. There's no way they was going to have the Miz on SmackDown on Fox talking about a USA Network show.
Correct.
The Viking Experience.
Yeah.
Our former War Raiders. We almost had the Berserkers, apparently. Can you imagine? We almost had it.
I don't know what to make of that.
I just want to wear like a Minnesota Vikings helmet every time I hear that name.
Great name or the greatest name?
How about neither?
I go back to this. My bit after the initial shock wore off Monday night when they came out and they said the Viking Experience. I will at least give them this. When they had the match, everything else about them was the same. Same look, same moves, same as far as the gimmick went, the only thing that changed was the name. So hopefully I can learn to live with it. I don't know. But they didn't totally change them. They just changed the name.
You can. But for people that don't know who they are, until Michael Cole tells them 75 damn times during the match that they may have been at NXT once and that they have whatever mythical background that they have, the name kind of is that introduction. And if somebody goes, what the hell is the Viking Experience? And think it's some kind of like, sideshow or roller coaster ride or 4D, showing, that may turn you off. And honestly, I don't know why the main roster, they shorten names all the time. But I think the Viking Experience, if you had to change the name for whatever reason, then cool. But the Viking Experience, I think we all can agree, is the worst possible name that you could probably do.
Yeah.
And if it's about being PG, what the hell are Vikings? Vikings are definitely not PG.
Yeah. I think the big issue it really exposes is that these guys have been down in NXT for at least a year now, if not
Right.
longer. And the issue is like, this really, to me, exposes that it really shows Vince does not watch NXT.
Nope.
This issue
No.
could have been dealt with ages
Oh
ago.
my God.
It did not need to be dealt with on Monday. They could have changed it to the Viking Experience or whatever, 9 months ago if this was the issue. But no, you
Exactly.
do it on Monday. So Vince got exposed. Yeah, Vince really don't watch that damn show. He never seen none of these people before.
But I don't. But why do you think they really changed the name though? Because I don't buy it that War is too graphic. When you have they're Vikings, so there's that, and also Kairi Sane just came up to either Raw or SmackDown. I forget which one, but and she's a goddamn pirate. So
Yeah.
The Pirate Experience?
Well,
I love the pirate experience.
Well, I'll just tell you the reason why the name changed. Obviously, from my sources,
Sources.
Yeah, my sources. It's because Michael Cole was upset that he no longer gets to call the big dog no more, and there's rumors that also Sasha Banks is also going to SmackDown, so he can no longer say it's his boss time. So they needed something to get for Michael Cole to get over, and it was left to the War Raiders. He didn't like it, and he decided to name them the Viking Experience. And now
That's
he gets
so
to put
dumb. It may be true.
That's the first I've heard of that version of it.
I'm
The way
telling you,
this
this is,
thing is going, I
these are from
believe about
these are
anything.
from my sources, and I can tell you that my sources are
very
in
reliable.
pre-K. They're probably in pre-K right now, and no, but seriously, dude, I really cannot wrap my head around it. I know that first, I'm happy for them, as they are the current tag champions.
Yeah, they still have the NXT tag
NXT.
title.
Yeah, so-
That's going to change.
Yeah, I'm very curious are they going to go back to NXT as the Viking Experience, or will there just be two iterations of them?
They taped last week before Monday happened, and they were on there as the War Raiders. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. If they're going to do voiceovers or something, because they taped new NXT TV for a month after Mania, but before Monday. So there is NXT in the can with the War Raiders on it.
Absolutely.
So then notice for like the ADR when Wallow, whoever the hell is calling NXT now, where he goes, "Oh my God, what a shot from the Viking Experience."
Yeah. For real, it's coming.
No, but seriously though. All right, so I forgot I can see the chat now of what's going on.
You can't say seriously and then say the Viking Experience in the same thing.
Looks like again most of the moves look like to keep people who are in relationships or whatever,
Married, not relationships. Married.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
Zelina.
Charlotte didn't win that battle.
Right.
Nope, she lost that.
right.
As soon as
Right.
pictures got posted, we're separating you two immediately.
Yeah, I'm not sure why, but maybe that could just be a thing because maybe Andrade now actually starts to get a legitimate top tier run that, as everyone like to say, deserves. But I mean, he's obviously has the resume and the talent, so maybe it was one of those investments to say like we're going to make a bigger star of him on the A show as they called it. But pretty much everybody else went together. I mean, Naomi and the Usos, Zelina and Aleister Black. So,
Yep.
But let me ask you, somebody clear this up for me. I've heard rumors on one side, have heard rumors on the other side. Is Samoa Joe going to be on Raw, but just had the flu where they couldn't officially name him over there?
yeah. So,
Yeah, he was sick apparently.
At this point now, they just need to just do the shakeup for one more week. So they can just clear some of this confusion going on.
Right.
Like Eric Young went to Raw, which I guess is an indication that Sanity broke up, but where was I mean, does that mean that Killian Dane is now going to be what? Because he's sort of really never been introduced as a solo person. But again, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of questions that the shakeup kind of left that and I think a lot of the reasons
same
why
with the Riot Squad.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But I think a lot of it is because of the fact of like because of what they did all the stuff in the first week where like people were just showing up like Drew McIntyre going to SmackDown on the first week was an indication that you thought he was going to go to the next week and then he wasn't, I don't know.
Happen.
I don't know. But I mean, of all these moves or anything, were any of these surprising or Did anything that you surprised didn't happen or so forth from the results that came out, or what do you think?
We mentioned this earlier too, how the WWE always shortens up names. So the first two names that came up to me was Cedric Alexander and Buddy Murphy. So understanding we're using 205 Live coming in, but now what are we going to do with these characters? Are we going to shorten them to Cedric and Murphy, or how are we going to build? I'm serious. How are we going to build these into?
It's going to be Ced Murph.
Ced Murph. I like that. I really do. And then the second thing is, you know, even though we're doing all this switcheroo, how are we building up these secondary titles for future matches or future storylines? What are we doing? Or are we going to be really going back and forth like this because it's a perfect mesh to do Money in the Bank and how we move that up to May? So I'm just wondering what's going to be the next step of all these things. Yeah, it's a simple question, but, you know, what's going to happen from here? Because to me, in my opinion, with SmackDown, you have abundant of faces now that's top baby faces. Kofi's your champ. You got Roman that's on there that's going to be a top face now unless they do something with him. Of course, you got Finn Balor, who is your secondary champ that's a big face. What are you going to do with all these faces on SmackDown, and who's going to be elevated to get that first feud with Seth? So it's just interesting to see what they're going to do even with all these changes.
Let me ask you this. Is there a chance in hell that they turn Roman heel by having him beat Kofi clean?
Well, I don't know. He did just kind of like lay Vince McMahon out. I'm not sure if that was a statement of making him a heel. We never know nowadays.
Nah, I would think that was more making him a face, because with Vince coming out with Elias and Vince was a heel through the whole Kofi moment, I don't think that made him a heel at all.
Okay.
That was just more entertaining.
That was to save Roman from getting booed if there was any chance of him getting booed. That they know you punch Vince, your people gonna love that. You punch McMahon,
especially with his reaction.
That was their little safety net there on him. Right. I can't imagine them having Roman go over Kofi. That I think they know would be a bad move. Whoever beats Kofi is gonna get heat. So I'm hoping. I mean, I've been saying it for a while that I've been thinking all along it's gonna be Drew McIntyre, that he's gonna win the Money in the Bank and he's gonna cash in on Kofi, and that's how they're gonna make him a guy. And that if they still want to move him to SmackDown, that's how they can move him to SmackDown. Still.
I agree with that.
That's still in the mix. That's been my theory since day one. I mean, the worst possible scenario would be if they took that heat and then didn't use it on somebody new like Drew to elevate them. I mean, heaven forbid if they just had like Randy Orton beat Kofi, and it's just like and it's just like you just wasted it. You know, you got to use that heat of beating Kofi on someone to rise them up to that top level.
What they should have done is that Vince McMahon should have brought Roman Reigns out, and then Brock Lesnar should have been the person to come out afterward. Now, as much as people hate Brock Lesnar, they need to put the title back on Brock Lesnar right now. Let Brock beat Kofi. That would be sponsored by Saudi Arabia, and that would be the craziest thing. That would send people into a swirl of this pure anger and hatred for WWE. That's how I would book it. So I don't know.
Twitter wrestling will have their way then too.
There you go.
Yeah, we have to make sure that they're all pleased.
What things have you? What do you think are the bright spots of the shakeup? I'll tell you what
the Viking experience.
Viking experience. I'll tell you what I like the most. The things that jumped out the most to me. I like that they switched AJ and they switched Roman, because they've both been on either Raw or SmackDown for ages. I mean, AJ's always been a SmackDown guy. So it was like, that was an overdue move to get him to a new area. And same thing with Roman. Roman's always been on Raw forever and a day. So it's like, both of those were guys where it's like, those were easy top guys to move, where they've been in the same spot forever. The other big thing that stood out to me as things wrapped up on Tuesday was, my God, the SmackDown's women's division, they got hooked up. They got a deep roster. And let me run this down, because of course you got Becky Lynch with the title. But once you get under Becky, then you got Charlotte right there still. You got the tag champs, Billie Kay and Peyton Royce. You got Asuka over there. You got Kairi Sane. You got Bayley. You got Ember Moon. You got Mickie James. Then you get kind of down to the lower level here. You get Carmella. You got Liv Morgan. You got Sonya Deville, who I think has some upside. Mandy Rose. You got Lana. That is a stacked division, especially compared to Raw, where it's like they got like, of course, they got Alexa, Nia's hurt. They got Tamina. they'll probably end up with Sasha, I'm guessing, however that all shakes out. It's like the Raw side is like way weaker.
How did you not remember the most important person on that roster in Dana Brooke?
Who am I forgetting?
Dana Brooke.
Dana Brooke.
And Alicia Fox. How can I forget Foxy?
There's a lot of trouble on that roster for sure.
But I'm saying this now. This is probably the best thing for Mandy Rose. I think she's actually going to win that women's Money in the Bank, and I know I'm jumping ahead here, that she will have the biggest impact, but I won't be surprised if, just like you mentioned, Will, of how Drew will move over to the SmackDown side if he becomes a winner. I won't be surprised if Mandy Rose actually goes over to the Raw side to do the same thing.
We know how Vince likes them blondes. Wrestling Twitter will tell us that any day of the week.
Yeah, that's true.
I won't be surprised if there's another form or iteration of the shakeup come like October, November.
Oh, they have to right before the Fox starts.
Yeah.
Yep. Some sort of trade or something. Something to freshen things up just a little more.
SummerSlam is in August.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good enough time where that will set up what they're going to do for the winter.
Yeah. So, do y'all think that there's anybody else that probably should have been called up from any respective brand during the shakeup?
Velveteen Dream.
Think they're ready on him?
I don't think there's much for him to do in NXT, honestly.
But let me ask this, Jamal. What if you think if he was the quote unquote the biggest acquisition in SmackDown history? What if they brought Velveteen out? How do you think that would have went over?
It would have been over like a wet fart in church.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that he's not great, and I think that he would be awesome in that role. But realistically, nobody knows who the hell he is because NXT doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, NXT is like Spider-Man that's Puerto Rican. We know it's a thing, but do we really count it? So I think I would like to see him come up as part of the Superstar Shakeup. I think that would be a better spot for him because they can give him his big entrance and he can really make himself known to the crowd. But like if Lars Sullivan can make it, then Velveteen should be no problem. He has like a really good gimmick that I think translates to the main roster.
It does.
Absolutely.
Until they get tired of him and then treat him like the Fashion Files.
Lars Sullivan, man, that's gonna be a project for sure. Well, good thing for him, you don't have to be shouted out by Michael Cole.
Snitsky 2.0.
We'll see, man. I won't wish that bad on him. So anyway, anything else in the shakeup?
I just wish they just put it back to the draft. I kind of hate the shakeup thing. I just think if you have two GMs, they compete back and forth, and they're drafting, which we can have trades and everything, which can go through not just on one Monday and Tuesday throughout the year, but if it can go through, like, for example, a whole 6-month process. Okay, we're about to do SummerSlam. Let me trade this person for 2 players. I really wish they would bring that draft back because, to me, they had some of the most charismatic and entertaining things that happen in that type of moment when we talk about Eric Bischoff when he was on against Paul Heyman. I think it could be brought back better in a better way than just having a shakeup where you're just switching people on different sides.
Yeah, I think they need to actually build to the shakeup or draft or whatever they want to call it.
Yep.
Instead of just saying like, "Hey, it's in a week, y'all." I mean, there's so many. The fact that they really don't have a general manager that actually manages on either Raw or SmackDown is one thing. Because Regal, in his capacity, I mean, he manages. He doesn't do anything other than manage. Mm-hmm. If you want a match, then talk to Regal about it. Stephanie and Shane don't really do that. So there's no real build for the shakeup in a storyline capacity because it doesn't really seem to matter. Miz and Shane got beef. Well, you better not, or you're going to get traded to Raw. It's like stuff like that.
Right.
None of that seems to happen, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, surprise, you're on Raw for what? Like, why would you want to do that? Wouldn't that be considered like a demerit to go to the other show if you're touting your show as the best?
Yeah.
I mean, like if I got traded to Wendy's and I worked at McDonald's, I'd be like, the fuck, you bitches ain't loyal.
No, it's definitely an issue that they've taken away all the any kind of storyline of why there is the shakeup. They just assume we know, and it is just weird that just people just walk out, and here they are.
Right.
There's no there's no like they were selected or they were drafted or there was a trade. It's just, here's Kairi Sane.
Yeah.
I mean, I would really.
At least that's the only person that they did that for was because of Paige.
At least they had Paige bring her out. Yeah. Yes. But if you get outside of that, though, it's like, okay, like, I mean, and you have to end, like, Vince brought out Roman Reigns, but like Finn Balor shows up as IC champ. He just showed up.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, he's here now. You know?
Yeah. It does. It just seems kind of weird that all of a sudden it's like, well, you're going to SmackDown, but why?
Yeah.
What? Right. Don't you want me? I mean, literally, you're champion.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you show up on SmackDown with like a big grin on his face, like, "Hey, guess who's rocking Tuesday nights?" Like, oh, okay, I guess.
One thing I will say, good for Cedric, man. I know they always emphasize him being the heart of 205 Live, and that's absolutely true. But it definitely was time for him to do bigger and better things. So, good for him. I expect to see some quality matches. I mean, you got to think about this now. Cedric and AJ in a match, that's going to be pretty damn good.
I mean, Cedric and most people in the match, honestly.
True. Yeah, but yeah, now we do get to see it on their biggest stage now. A lot of stuff that, probably seen in the indies. Obviously, they had to have worked in ROH, even though I can't think of it coming to mind. But yeah, good for him because he's world class talent, and I think that was a absolutely good decision for that to be handled that way. This is what I've been hearing, and you guys tell me if you heard this too, which I kind of don't agree. So Alexander Wolf, who was part of Sanity, apparently looks like he's leaving WWE, but somebody else was telling me that they feel like he's going back to NXT, which would be a cool thing, considering that I think he could use the singles exposure. But it would be the first of its kind for them to have done something like that officially. But there has been no proof besides this letter thanking WWE. So I don't know. Be curious to see what happens with that. And WWE has not made no official announcements about releasing anybody. That includes Luke Harper. That includes Alexander Wolf. And was it anybody else? I don't know.
No.
But more importantly, too, the Performance Center announced 3 big signings this week as well. One huge signing, one big signing, and another guy. No. Wait, what? Three
one
people.
Huge signing.
Yeah.
Yeah, one huge signing, one big signing, and another guy.
One huge signing, one big signing, and then another guy. Okay.
Yeah, there's Kushida, which is a huge deal.
Okay.
Shane Strickland is a big deal, and there's the other guy.
Okay.
And of course, the big thing we gotta make sure we make a big point of here. People listening, who was the man on this show? Who was the man on this show who kept talking about Shane Strickland for months now?
Yeah, I know. But
my boy Najir here.
Yeah,
he was the one saying he's going.
I know, the thing about it is that it was common sense, regardless of how much you could or would know about the situation in the first place. It's just common sense. Like, if that's as Jamal say, a big deal, if AEW or anybody had their hands on that person, they would immediately say, we signed this person. They're not going to wait for their event to be like, oh, we have him. Like, we already know once the big free agency, like the big free agency thing when it came about and everyone's saying who's a free agent, who's signed, anybody that AEW got, they announced right away, regardless if it was somebody that you never heard of or somebody that you may have heard of, regardless. But you absolutely know of Shane Strickland. So if there was any chance that they had got that guy, we would have known. So again, if AEW didn't announce that they got a person saying they're a free agent and they're finishing up their indie dates, they're going to WWE. It's absolute common sense. I don't know who's another example as of currently right now, because I don't know who's pleading saying they're a free agent, but DJZ and Shane Strickland, 2 people, same pattern.
And ACH, same deal.
Yep.
Those were the 3. Those were the 3 that were out there, and we knew they were in play, and AEW didn't pick them up. Yep. And now they all down in Florida.
But
Every single one of them.
But that brings me to what happened on Twitter earlier now. The comment, I forgot. Yeah, what was the tweet again?
Let me find it. Let me find it. I'm going to find it. You keep talking. I'm going to pull it up right now. I will pull it up right now.
I want to make sure it's
so you can
verbatim,
answer
but yeah. And matter of fact, I want everybody to get a chime in on this because like it's it's confusing to me a little bit with people. But
I'm going back in my mentions now.
If you're a free agent, if you are a wrestler and you have bled for this business for years on the indies, going all over the place, doing all types of matches, and your childhood dream was to go to WWE, and you finally got all your chips lined up in one spot, and now you have the opportunity to, you got out of your first quote-unquote deal that you thought was going to take you to the top that didn't work out. You finally got opportunity to really lay it out to see where you want to go. And now AEW comes about, and now they're signing big names, giving out big money, exclusive contracts, whatever it may be, on something that looks good on paper, vice versa, something that is established, proven, and part of your legacy that you feel may ultimately prove you have been made it and solidifying your legacy and going to WWE. Is there any absolute chance that you take a bet on what's on paper outside of the what biasly that you've known that you wanted to do your whole life that has proven results and so forth? I don't quite see some of the wrestling Twitter's logic with some of the things they say. Now I know you got it up now.
2 Chainz?
Yep. That's
here it goes.
That's Somalian internet.
Oh, I left out.
Okay, so it was coming off of the announcement of Shane Strickland and everybody down at Hector Garza Jr. and Kushida and all them down at the Performance Center. So I just put up that saying, hey, Shane Strickland's off the market. And a guy by the name of John Panabaker, John PDWYL on the Twitter machine. He replied to the tweet and said, some of these other companies need to start paying wrestlers. Getting tired of all these guys sitting on the bench at WWE. Hopefully they won't, but WWE has more talent than they know how to use while refusing to trim the fat.
Number one,
you have thoughts.
Well, number one, I respectfully, it's his opinion, and I respectfully acknowledge that. But I wholeheartedly disagree. Wholeheartedly disagree because number one,
100%.
No one puts a gun to your head and say you better go to WWE. Like you do you do make the choice of what you feel is best for you. And I will say for a fact of somebody I know that signed a conversation that I had with this person, considering that this person said they had options on the table. The person even explained to me the money of what one was offering, vice versa what the other was offering. And the person directly told me, it was like, no, I always wanted to go to WWE. That's what I want to do. And, you know, I know for a fact that they're proven they're going to be around for a long time. And I know I'm going to have a constant check regardless. And not only just that myself as a performer, I've been through a lot, and it's all about this, me being able to be taken care of, getting proper benefits and insurance, to be able to heal up, to be able to train properly in the right circumstances, to be around some of the best people in the world and stuff like that. That's what it means to me. More of a, I don't, it's not like, it's more or less to be in the company of, again, something that is proven, that there's no big liabilities in going to this. It is a more safe choice, not only for me but for my family. So and then the other intriguing thing about it was that, so the person ultimately went to WWE, and their deal was a certain amount of many-year deal for the years promised. This other promotion, because I'm really reading, you can read between the lines here. This other promotion said that we will give you this and an option, which strikes me is that if you're giving somebody an option nowadays, I know in the NFL, if you get an option, if you get an option in the NBA, that there's an agreement between either in this third or fourth year in this option, you're either going to decline as a player, or we're debunking this whole big signing thing of all these people we're bringing in, and we're scrapping everybody and starting clean the next that third or fourth year. So the game plan changes. There's not 100% certainty on what's going to happen in that next year. But with WWE, you know for a fact that they're going to continue to provide wrestling for years and years and years and years and years and out. It's going to always be the machine that can build people, that can sign people, that can get them around world-class trainers and be around, the proper equipment and medical staff and so forth. So it's less liabilities in that. But I think that if a wrestling promotion's providing optional years, I feel like people are like scratching their heads like, if we're around, then possibly.
I think McMahon's gotten to him.
Huh? You think what? Okay, go ahead, Jamal.
Wrestlers don't have a union, so there's that. That's the big difference between the major team sports and wrestling. There is no union. There's no collective bargaining agreement. There's nobody that's going to lobby on behalf of how you choose to make money. Let's not forget that the system has been ingrained in us to believe, as fans of wrestling in the U.S., that WWE is the end-all, be-all, point blank, period. And if you have been a wrestling fan in the U.S. or Canada, more than likely, unless you have been exposed to other avenues of wrestling, maybe it was WCW or ECW or the territories, if you're old enough to remember those, where they were a thing, it is kind of like, nope, WWE, that's what it is. And now we have a group of kids that are, and it makes me feel old saying this, that John Cena is their introduction to wrestling. Mm-hmm. They are, that's what they remember as a child. Yeah. And I mean, 5-6 years old, WrestleMania 2000. Right. That they grew up in the ruthless aggression era, and it sickens me to know that that's what they have to live through, but it is what it is. Yep. So still, now more than ever, especially since the decline of and demise of WCW and ECW and major competition in WWE, guess what? If you're an up-and-coming wrestler, and we've heard it so many times from many up-and-coming wrestlers on this show, that WWE, since a child, has been the end-all, be-all. Even if they try and fail, they got to get there. And I think that's the same thing that's indicative of every other major team sport in the country. If you're a soccer player, you need to go to Europe. If you're a hockey player, you come to America. If you're a baseball player, you need to play in the MLB and the NFL and the NBA and so on. So let's not pretend that the system and the way it's set up leads people to the WWE unconsciously.
I agree with that totally. And just to add to that, just to give a specific generic scenario, me growing up as a kid, one of the dreams I had was to get in the NBA. And as I get older, or I got older when I was a kid, you work hard, you play hard, you try to make teams, do all this and do all that. And you always said to yourself, I may not be a star in the NBA, but as long as if I can just get on the bench to wear a jersey just to say I was part of that product, that's what I'm working for. Now, I'm going to try to be the best where I can start and make a lot of money. But the fact is, like you just said, Jamal, and you even said it too, 2 Chainz, when you get to the point where you want to represent something that was a lifelong goal for you, you want to do everything you can to mark that off. Even with, Cedric Alexander, when we had conversations with him, privately, you can just tell the moment when, right before he got signed with WWE, it was just a moment that was just so proud for him, just to be on there. And he even put it in one promo where, I forgot if it was in ROH in Baltimore. I think me and you, 2 Chainz, was there at the same time. And he mentioned it in the promo that his grandmother, once again, it was probably a kayfabe promo, but somewhat real, where his grandmother or mother said something about, you want to go into the WWE? No, that's not going to happen. But that was just something that he drove very hard for to try to achieve. And when these guys get the moment to get signed by these companies, they're going to try to go for what's WWE the best because they want to. That means so much to them. So I'm repeating what you guys have said. But it's the exact same thing, like you said, Jamal, with any type of entity or professional sports that people want to go in. WWE is looked in the same way.
Yeah, look, LeBron James wanted to go to the Lakers, and that squad had questionable potential, but it didn't matter because it had always been something he had wanted to do. He wanted to go back
Right.
and play for his home team. He's done that, accomplished. And the fact that like any team would have catered to him, gave him any amount of money, land, islands, or whatever it may be, he wanted to go to the Lakers. So, you know, if that's part of your thing of like what you want to grow up and do, then yeah, fine. But you know, like, look, maybe this new generation of kids, you talking about the one that grew up loving, like in John Cena, maybe they, you know, start training. Maybe their goal will to be in AEW or something like that. But for right now, all these guys that's around this, we can pretty much say our generation of people that's getting signed and working the indies really hard. I mean, it's WWE is their dream, and again, for me, if I was in the business, look, it's the more proven entity. Even if I went and failed, I did it.
Right.
You know, and then I can
Nobody can take that
reevaluate
away from you.
afterwards. You know.
Yeah, we're looking at a startup situation with AEW. We just, we know there's a lot of money behind it and we know some stuff about it, but it's an unproven commodity. And if you're sitting there and you got 10 years on the indies and you're banged up and you got a lot of miles on your body and you're actually in a position after all these years where you have multiple offers on the table from a startup or from WWE, where at the very least they're not going to be going anywhere. They got money coming in. They got the deal with Fox. They got the deal with USA. So there's a lot to be said for, one is very much more of a sure thing compared to the other one on commodity.
Yeah.
And every situation's different for everybody. If you're a younger guy and you're like, someone like a Darby Allin who just got picked up by AEW, that's a young guy who's got, he does a rough style, but he's a heck of a lot younger than a guy in his 30s who's been doing this for years. Yeah. So a lot of it depends on time and place and just where you are and how you're feeling and just, whether you're in a position where you can be, okay, I'll take the gamble on the startup. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. And I'll still be able to hopefully go to WWE later. Or if you're someone who's closer to the end as opposed to the beginning, where it's like, I've been doing this for 12 years. I finally got my shot to go. I'm getting paid. It's like there's everyone's situation is unique. Everyone's situation is unique. There is no blanket answer to this.
Yeah. And, the other thing is, too, Antoine said it in the chat, like, do you want to hustle for the rest of your life? Like, that is literally the question. And, for a fact of, like, something's proven. And not to mention, too, like, what other opportunities does WWE provide for you, unlike another promotion could? I mean, going there and... people talk a lot about Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins not doing anything, hanging out and catering for a while. But while those guys weren't getting featured on TV, they were brand ambassadors for their toy line. We don't know what type of incentives that may provide for them financially, but considering that that's a hobby of theirs that they've always grown up wanting to do, and that they're able to be not only the frontal face for the company that they work for, but also do something in the likes of another hobby that they always like. That's a big thing. Or what about some of these people that's like, well, I kind of wanted to be an actor or actress, but I also wanted to wrestle too. And then, hey, you get an opportunity to be in a WWE films. I mean, I'm sure R-Truth would never have gotten that deal or that opportunity anywhere else in the world if it wasn't for WWE putting together the best 1-2 punch in him and Trey Songz ever in a movie if it didn't work for WWE. So, it's little stuff like that. But to go back to AEW or whatever, well, if the frontal thing is about how much money the Cons and them got, what has this proven for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who still gets blackout dates in some of their games? Like, how...
Oh, see? He started talking about R-Truth.
Start talking about people's money and that internet starts cutting out.
Yeah, we're getting hacked over here.
But didn't Tyler Breeze say the same thing though? Didn't Tyler Breeze? I don't know if it was through a comment.
What did he say?
I don't know if Tyler Breeze made a comment on Twitter or some type of video where he mentioned, well, I forgot where the source was, and let me make my little plug right here. Let me shout out one person. When I was in California last week, I got a chance to be on the set of a show called Family Reunion that's going to be debuting this summer. Very good show. Definitely, if you have Netflix, check it out. I want to do that plug for them. But one of the writers of the show, Howard Jordan, who is a huge wrestling fan, me and him had a great conversation about this, and he mentioned this, and I forgot where he got the source from, I don't know if it was from Twitter or if it was from an interview that Tyler Breeze did, but Tyler Breeze had a comment, or somebody made a comment towards him, which was similar to what you were just going to, James, saying like, hey, yeah, I'm in WWE, but I may not be used a lot. I may not be on TV. But understand this, when I cash my check, that check never bounces. So the fact that he gets that, check every single week, knowing he's on a brand that's stable and he has a living that he can do for himself. Granted, he does maybe house shows or maybe he does little small interviews and he's not on the main TV. He's stable in a situation where he's happy to do what he needs to do and being developed on a consistent brand.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I think that's relative, though. Because if you're the type of person that says, no, I just want to play in the NBA, and then you get drafted to Memphis, and, well, Memphis isn't a great town. They don't have a great team. But hell, I'm in the NBA. And then 10 years later, you've just been a Memphis Grizzly all your life.
Right.
Do you start at that point to think, well, damn, what if I did go play for a more competitive team? What if I did play in a better city? What if I played in my hometown? Do you have those regrets? Because it seems like, and again, being relative, Bailey seems to be going along just fine, whereas there's this rumor about what Sasha Banks is doing. We've talked about in the past that, even though AEW is just, elephant in the room, realistically, the Usos can leave if they want and go wherever they damn well please because they've earned the clout to do so. But then again, other tag teams in WWE that may have been here longer have not. I don't think Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins can kick in Vince's door or demand them cash, and he'd be like, "Well, New Japan is hiring. Good luck, bro." They can't do that. They don't have that name.
It's true.
Let it be noted that the Usos had an opportunity to leave, and all that hot talking about how they're the best in the world and they could have went anywhere and done it. They signed right back on that dotted line, back with WWE.
Did.
So,
did.
But to be fair, the Usos have the best of both worlds, where they are revered and used in a way that people would generally agree that we're enjoying. So the biggest thing that we talk about NXT isn't who should be called up, it's more of who's going to be used correctly after they're called up.
Exactly.
We're generally scared that people are going to get called up either not too soon or not at all, but just wrong, as we've seen from the Viking experience. So
there's nothing wrong about that.
My ass it ain't. But the bottom line is, you can if you choose to be, happy to be there, and Titus O'Neil the situation and be like, hey, I look good in the suit, my check's cash, and that's fine. Okay, cool. If you want to be a champion and you're Titus O'Neil, nah, bro, it's not going to happen in WWE unless you make up like your own championship, like Zack Ryder did, literally. So that it just depends on what you want to do and where your happiness lies. And Sasha Banks, if those words were true from what she sent out, then she may not be happy because of what's happening right now, though she is arguably on top or at the top. Sasha Banks don't have far to climb to the top, and I think everybody can generally agree on that. Yet here we are.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm surprised I ain't saying nothing about Sasha today because I'm definitely sick of that situation. But
yeah, I mean it is kind of like a should get off the pot kind of a thing, but I can understand. Sasha Banks is like Karl Malone in her last year.
What?
Like she's done everything that she needed to do. If you're saying that Sasha Banks ain't a Hall of Famer, change my mind. But realistically, she wants to go out like on top, like completely legitimize herself as a Hall of Famer, one of the best in the world, in that conversation. And if Paige and Emma had continued what their NXT run was and then transitioned to the main roster, they would be in that conversation. If Natty Neidhart were used better, she'd be in the conversation, but it is what it is. With that said, I think that Sasha has earned a little bit more respect than she's given. And now that she's kind of been out of the limelight, used poorly with the flip-flopping between the belts with her and Charlotte last year or a couple years ago. And now, her on again, off again, bratty feud with Bailey. It's not been that great, even though those matches were at the top of the women's division. So here we are, and you're kind of like, what more does Sasha Banks have to do? And then she gets the women's tag team belt for the first time in ever, I think. And then they're like, well, you're going to lose to Billie Kay. What?
Yeah,
I'd be pissed too.
I mean, but why would she be pissed? I mean, again, she's been given every opportunity for every title to.
Because you're trying to legitimize this. You're trying to legitimize the title, and you're going to give it to Billie Kay and Peyton Royce.
I mean, you were the first to have the title. You got the whole story about how this is something you guys always wanted to do. Blah 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 blah. And it's not like they took the titles from them and then they kept them together and then they're just jobbing now. They separated them. So why she's complaining about ever that? Maybe she's on line back for another singles run. I mean,
do you think that they separated them because she's complaining because her losing the titles to, or the Iconics is not like the play?
Her losing to the Iconics is not the big deal. It's the fact of what goes on for her after this. You done had the tag titles. What's next for you? Now, again, if she's still on Raw, then you look at that division that puts her within that puts her into the 2 or the 3rd spot for in the top tier of the women's division. I mean, Ronda's going to be gone for a little bit, but outside of Alexa Bliss, who obviously always gets an opportunity, Sasha has to be right there. So you're going to be featured.
There is not a lot of work rate on the Raw side. And I said this earlier today, and it got a big reaction. And the more I think about it, the more I love it. I don't know if they have this planned, but it's right there for the taking in front of them. And if they broke up the team with the idea that they needed those, what could be, I don't know for sure, but what it could be is that they were looking at the roster and been like, look, after WrestleMania, we really need Sasha and Bayley as separate entities to do stuff with as opposed to as a team. It might just be that simple. If they want to do it, it's right in front of them. Next month, Money in the Bank. Her name is right there in the name of the pay-per-view. You give Sasha the briefcase and play into this whole deal. I would keep her off TV till Money in the Bank and have her win the thing and make the story that Sasha feels passed over. Sasha has a chip on her shoulder, and now she's got the briefcase. And what's she going to do?
And you know what? It does right itself because this has always been my problem with her gimmick. Sasha Banks, the boss, doesn't do boss things, but having that briefcase definitely puts you.
She's the boss.
It puts you in the discussion of doing boss things where you can cash in whenever you want. Or you can come after that title whenever you want. Like, that's the leverage that gimmick needs. It's brilliant to me. But again, here's the thing. We're talking about her in these assets because that's who she's always been. She's always been somebody in question and being in the top tier. We're not talking about this like it's Dana Brooke who like comes out and says like she's tired of being looked over. And then she disappears again. Like, this is not like it's a real thing. Sasha is considered in your top tier. So like, there's no reason for her to be mad.
I agree with everything that you're saying, and you're putting up a great storylines. But to me, this seems so much of what CM Punk went through. We could easily say that CM Punk was in the top 2 or 3 tier, multiple time Money in the Bank winner, multiple time world champion before he got the WWE title. But once again, even though she's saying all this now similar to what he's doing, if it's not executed in the way where she becomes that main event person, which that was the biggest gripe about CM Punk. He was not the main event person. It was always John Cena. It was always Miz. It was always Triple H, somebody before him. Sasha is saying the same thing. And I'm with Jamal on this side. I'm looking at it from Sasha's perspective. Yeah, she's got a chance to have the title. Yeah, she was the first person to have the tag titles, but she never was the number one woman mentioned in this company. And even if you give her this Money in the Bank push, even if you give her the title that way, I bet you they will book it just like they did with CM Punk, where she would never have that moment where she was the best woman on that roster at that time. Because look, Ronda went over her 2 years ago. Now this year was Becky. It was Charlotte when they had that triple threat match in 32. Sasha has never had that moment where she was the top woman, and that's where she's feeling that perspective. But once
that's just NXT.
Say it again.
I mean, honestly, that's just NXT.
Right, exactly. Agree. And that's her biggest gripe. I agree with, Jamal 100% on this. But once again, I see what you guys are saying, Will and 2 James. But the fact is, the moment that Sasha is feeling is that she is not the number one woman in that roster, whether it's Raw or SmackDown, where she feels like she deserved that chance and opportunity, just like CM Punk went through when he did the same thing.
I understand if she feels that way, and that's obviously something that should be self-motivated, but to create any type of bad stigma around that of your displeasure is absolute bullshit to me. Again,
but how is it bad stigma to like have like a justifiable criticism of the perception of your future?
Right.
I mean, if
you are.
Because she
right,
feels,
if you know that you work at a job, go ahead.
Because she feels she should be the top person, and if she feels that certain way, then she needs to go out there and do it. I mean, again, Becky Lynch probably.
Did you suggest that Sasha Bank should grab the brass ring?
Look, Becky Lynch, circumstantially, getting tongue tied. Becky Lynch took her opportunity and went with it, and it elevated her. It was we always.
Becky Lynch didn't take anything. She got punched in the face by Nia Jax, and that got her over.
No, but it's no. Again, her social media,
her social gonna be a match at Survivor Series, and that was it.
Her social media work, her backstage.
That came later though.
No, it came immediately because once that happened with the invasion thing, then she was going to be on the sideline. So. At that point, she had to do nothing but do the backstage promo, the little documentary that she kind of put out, a vlog, we'll call it, and all the social media work. I mean, that's taking an opportunity and running with it. Even Nia Jax got some win out of it because she looked at it and she went with it. So at the same time, it's not just what you do on TV nowadays. Your social media can be used to help elevate it. Don't use it to create a bad aurora around you. And
don't you think that that's a bit of a problem, though, is that they have to rely on Twitter and Instagram to get themselves over instead of a team of goddamn writers that's backstage?
Yeah, but see, that's the opportunity that you got to do. Hell, Velveteen Dream, with his shenanigans at WrestleMania, got him a match with Buddy Murphy, and I think that was hella cool. Again, if this is creative saying, yeah, go with it, to initiate it, or if they're creative at the end is like, oh, we'll go with that. Either way, it's proven results. And I just think that besides what all of Sasha's accolades that she's done and, how she feels she should be the top person, it's more to it nowadays than just, your self-belief. You actually have to provide and use the universe in all aspects. And I just think it's BS that she would get mad that she's not the top person when I get it. Ronda comes in, but she's a big name. There's nothing he's ever going to be able to do with that. But you have to take your opportunities and use it, and then keep continuously trying to elevate it. And again, she was the inaugural tag champions. That's a huge thing. That's forever going to be in history.
Is it?
Is it?
Yes.
I mean, considering who's the first Intercontinental champion? Okay. Thanks. Right. That's my point.
I mean, but at the same time, at the same time, we're always going to remember for this era right now.
I know it's Pat Patterson.
Who was the first Universal champion?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, stuff like that we would know because it just happened, and while it's still recent right now, it's still a big thing.
It will only come up when you talk about the Hall of Fame. That will only reason why it will come up because nobody will reference that, routinely or need to reference that routinely. But like I said, I understand where you're coming from. But think about this: if you think about Sasha's career, what has she not done that the company has asked for, or that she has done on her own? What has she not done to not deserve this moment? What has CM Punk not done to deserve this moment?
Well,
But
Sasha needs to clean up her work in the ring, if you ask me.
It's not perfect, but whose work is perfect though?
Charlotte's.
Bullshit.
Charlotte.
Throw your whole phone in the trash.
Charlotte, I gotta find me a bad match. Gotta find me a bad match.
But it takes two to tango on those matches, though.
Yeah,
it takes two to tango.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. But you're gonna have to find me a bad match where she was primarily the reason why the match was bad.
I'd say Asuka over Charlotte.
What has more cleaner matches?
Asuka's the cleaner wrestler than Charlotte, and prove me wrong.
I would agree with that too. That's fine. Okay. But Sasha's not in this conversation. Matter of fact, let's just be honest now. Of the 4 horsewomen, who's the worst of the 4?
Bailey.
I would say Bailey as well.
Who's number 3? Why y'all thinking so hard?
I mean, like literally, you got.
Why y'all thinking so hard? Who's number 3?
When you say, hold on, are you saying wrestler or overall character?
No, wrestler. That's all I'm talking about.
No, wrestler.
I said the ring work.
I would say Becky Lynch is number 3.
I
would say Becky Lynch is number 3. Becky doesn't have the cleanest matches.
Yeah, you by your own. No. I mean, I would still take Becky number 1, but I would definitely flip a coin between Sasha and Charlotte.
I think the bigger thing in my mind is once you get past Bailey, if we're just talking Charlotte, Sasha, and Becky, I don't think there's a lot of space between them. There's not like drastic.
It's not.
As far as in ring, I think they're all very competent.
Hence why all 3 of them had that first main event in 32. Well, not main event per se, but
I don't know. I just always recall Sasha doing out of the ring antics and completely contorting her body and cringing numerous times, like, "Oh God, I hope she's okay." Look, we can talk about that for hours about it. Again, she's had every opportunity, and to have an opportunity is still a good thing. She could be Natty, just putting people over for the last 3 years, or she could be Dana Brooke. I guess that's all I can say about that.
Let me ask this, Najee. Let me ask this. Okay, and I'm gonna go back because it's a direct comparison. In my opinion, I may be wrong on this. To CM Punk, did CM Punk deserve to main event a WrestleMania at any time in his career?
Yes.
So why didn't it happen?
Because there was just always a bigger star.
So could you say the same thing about Sasha?
Did she deserve the main event one? I mean, it's not even in comparison because the women only have ever been able to main event it one time. Now,
I understand that. No, I understand it. But think of where the woman had the biggest main event draw. Okay, so you had,
but she's been featured heavily at every WrestleMania.
Has she though?
Yes, title matches or. Yeah, every match has been titled. She's got special interests, so like she's been heavily featured. She's never been like don't know what we're gonna do with her this year. Put her in a matter of fact, has she been in the Battle Royal?
Hadn't been on the pre-show.
Has she? Has she?
No, she hasn't. But she hasn't. But once again, that same direct comparison goes to CM Punk. CM Punk's had a special entrant. CM Punk's had some great moments where he's been featured. He even faced The Undertaker. So once again, it kind of applies in the same direction. Once again, on a male's perspective, and female is going to be different type of levels. But when we think about the WrestleMania moments, you got to think about the match at 32. You got to think about the match that happened last year, and then you got to think about other aspects like the Women's Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm. She's had WrestleMania moments.
Featured,
she's had WrestleMania moments. I mean, that trios match in Dallas was arguably one of the best matches, not only of that night, but of that year. So right. she's definitely been featured. Again, she was the tag champion going into this WrestleMania, which is still a big deal because when you think about the press and publicity tour, you got to carry that belt around the entire lead up for it. It was a big thing. It was a heavily featured match. And then
it was a feature match, but in comparison to the main event that took place, it did not feature her.
You know, speaking of Asuka here, like why Sasha's crying about this and that. What about Asuka, who at some point where they were looking for a match for her for WrestleMania, then it was like, you know what? Never mind. We'll take that belt and then we'll put you in this battle royal. Cool. Oh, and also we got your new tag partner afterwards. So that singles run, we'll put that on hold for right now. So
technically, she already had it. If you want to say that, she already had the singles run as a champion.
I'm just saying. So when you talk about how different or worse your situation could be, Sasha doesn't have an argument because now that she's single again, now this puts her again in the opportunity to be in contention for the championship. And we're booking for Money in the Bank. It's just, I mean, it just makes so much sense. Put it this way too. If Becky and Lacey Evans are your featured feud going into it, that automatically puts Lacey Evans out of that Money in the Bank match. Which, when you think about that, when you think about now the people that's going to be in it, Sasha's a no-brainer person not only to be in it, but almost a very solid win considering the other people at hand. So
I would agree with that totally.
Yep. So I don't know.
I think overall we just have to see what she does.
Yeah.
Right.
She should
And
just
we
go
have
to
see what
We'll
go to
know within
AEW.
we'll know within a month. Money in the Bank's in a month. This is gonna play out pretty quickly.
AEW.
We'll know soon enough.
AEW. That's it. That's all. That's what everybody wanted to hear. Sasha to AEW. So all that for nothing. AEW. That's what y'all want. There we go. Sasha Banks versus Britt Baker.
Oh,
Main event. Sign me up.
Boy.
Matter of fact, Sasha Banks versus.
Remember, she's got to have a new name, so she's gonna be like Mercedes ATM or something.
Right.
The Banks. The Banks experience.
The Banks statement will be her name. All right, that's it. Y'all got anything else y'all want to talk about?
Okay, so there are a couple of things in the news real quick that I'm just going to touch on. Number one, Kim Anderson, Mr. Kennedy.
Kennedy!
Yep, that's why I did this.
Kennedy!
Apparently, he has a wrestling school, and though that's cool for him, he kind of wants to work with AEW. So that's no, I don't see it happening. But
good for him, because that's smart. That's smart.
Good for him.
Yeah,
I like it.
May
who's in
6th.
that school, by the way? I have never heard nobody say they came out
Silly
of.
sellers.
I have never heard nobody say they came out of his school. That is, I gotta look that up. I don't think I've heard anybody say they graduated from school. Anyway, keep going.
That is just Jimmy Havoc. His final match in progress will be May 6th at Super Strong Style 16 in London. So that's going to be a hell of a show, as we know that Jimmy Havoc moving on to bigger and better things on this side of the ocean.
AEW.
Of course, all roads lead to AEW.
Yep.
And lastly, if you check his Twitter, there's a link to his GoFundMe. Apparently, his mom's house burned down. The inhabitants are safe.
Yeah.
But if you want to help out Ricochet, who donated $2,000 to the effort, and a couple other NXT stars, donated, chipped it for a bit, and you can too. If a link to his GoFundMe is on Ricochet's Twitter at King Ricochet. Yeah. The pictures of the house are absolutely fucking devastating, and luckily everybody's okay. But after looking at this charred remains of their home, is the horrible thing. So,
what was the location of it?
Where the house was?
Yeah,
I don't know. It doesn't say, but that's probably for the best because it's a famous guy's family.
Yeah, I get it. I
mean, we know where you're from, and we can assume, but the long and short of it is that if you want to make a donation on the GoFundMe side of it, go ahead and do that through Ricochet's Twitter. The tweet was from April 17th, which was yesterday morning. So go out and help the brother out. You know
what's funny about? Oh, not funny, but what's interesting about your question about where's it at? Because the first time when I seen the GoFundMe yesterday, I was like, "Is this in Maryland?" Because there was a bunch of house fires around this area all of a sudden, and I thought,
right.
I was thinking
that's
I was definitely thinking the exact same thing. I was just like, that's like,
right.
But they're more common than we realize. So, people stop donating to the brand from Game of Thrones, Build Him a Rant Fund, and go do something for a good cause. I mean. I'm pretty sure a lot of wrestling fans are Game of Thrones fans and vice versa. Why you donating to some fictional thing where you could possibly be helping somebody, that really means something. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, but yeah, nice little show tonight. A little bit longer than usual. I think we did about 1:30, but we got some good points out. Point of the matter is the Superstar Shakeup happened. We got the Viking experience out of it.
Quick question about that. Let me ask you this quick, and I know it's probably an easy answer. But does join the Viking experience because that's her husband? Can't think of her name right now.
Sarah Logan.
Sarah Logan.
Oh, yes. Maybe.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
It depends. I mean, for all we know, her and Ruby Riott are still the Riot Squad. We have no idea. They haven't done anything with any of them.
Or they do put her in that stable, and And maybe that is probably why they can maybe a new name. And now Ruby Riott gets a singles run. And considering Ruby Riott being on Raw and her talent,
Right.
That's an interesting person that can be shot up to the top tier. So again,
absolutely.
Sasha's complaining. Look at Ruby Riott, who gets out there and gets jobbed left and right. Yeah.
See, he keeps talking about Sasha, and the next thing you know.
That's good. No,
quit while he's ahead.
I didn't freeze. I just stood there because I
might have lost it totally now.
Yeah. See, that's what happens when we bite the hand.
Are you serious? Because I can see myself moving.
Right.
Okay, whatever. All right, let's.
We'll see you next week, folks.
Big old bell.